Listen closely. What if the reason you keep finding yourself on the emotional high wire, attracting high drama partners, or the reason every relationship with incredible potential self destructs violently after 3 to 6 months? This isn't due to bad luck, the current dating market, or even the quality of women you meet. It's because you are running faulty psychological software, my dudes, an emotional operating system installed in your subconscious before you even hit puberty. Come on. Welcome back to Plant the Spark, fire starters. Today, we're unlocking a secret that the entire modern dating ecosystem works overtime to conceal. This is insider knowledge that your typical dating guru is either totally oblivious to or actively avoids because it requires you to look inward, not outward. This hidden code is dictating every fight, every pullback, and every moment of self sabotage. It's the invisible hand pushing away the exact high value connection that you fire starters crave. If you don't hack this hidden code, you will forever be locked into cycles of anxiety, distance, disappointment. Your brain treats this kind of secret like emergency survival information. I mean, I don't like this term, but consider this your red pill moment for relational psychology. Stick around because this isn't just theory. This is the hidden blueprint to your love life. And once you see it, you cannot unsee the game you've been playing against yourself your entire life. Fire starters, you know we always get into the edgy truths here at Plant the Spark. But those truths are always tethered to accountability and self mastery. This channel is about building authentic connections with emotionally secure women that requires you to step up emotionally yourself as that ethically secure man that we're building here at the Plant the Spark. Now, the discussion of deep psychology is not intended for manipulation or gimmicks. This is a blueprint for self mastery and ethical engagement in dating. And so, if you're looking for those sites that throw off, this trick, that trick, do this, put her down, this isn't it. This is about ethical masculinity. We go deep, and we're getting deep into the psychology of attraction, both physically, mentally, and thirdly, emotionally. Guys, when we talk about psychological tension and attraction, we ground it in genuine connection, not fleeting conquest. Today, we're diving deep into the core architecture of your love life, adult attachment theory. Now, this theory moves beyond situational advice. It explains why you feel compelled to act the way you do when intimacy heats up or that stress hits. So buckle up, boys. This one's going to get interesting. Now, at the heart of attachment theory is the concept of the internal working model, the IWM. Think of the IWM as like, I don't know, the subconscious instruction manual or core programming that dictates your relational behavior. Now, this model is shaped by your earliest interactions with primary caregivers. It dictates, two fundamental relationship truths: your self view, am I worthy of love and support? It's the me factor. And then the other view, are others reliable? Are they available? Are they trustworthy? It's the them factor, I guess, right? And your IWM acts like a filter. It predetermines how you interpret a partner's late text message, a moment of silence, a disagreement. I mean, it can predict pretty much any behavior, whether you instinctively withdraw, right? Do you withdraw away or do you aggressively pursue? This stuff is all dictated by that internal code, guys. Now, if this code is insecure, it's going to generate unhealthy attitudes, right? Unhealthy behaviors. These are going to sabotage the very intimacy that you desire every single time. Now, how do you fix this code? Well, you got to understand the four major relationship sort of operating systems that actually exist out there. What are the four categories? What are the two dimensions, right? For decades, psychological researchers focused on categorizing adult attachment, while early models categorized attachment into four distinct types. You've got the secure, you've got the avoidant, you've got the anxious, and you've got the fearful, the disorganized, right? Sometimes called the insecure avoidant, actually. Now, modern consensus in the empirical literature actually views attachment patterns more appropriately as a dimensional model. And this dimensional view provides far more power and accuracy than simply sort of labeling yourself. So basically, what we've got here is a two dial system. Adult attachment exists along two independent continua, right? Or dials, if you will. You've got what's called like the clinginess dial, I guess. It's attachment anxiety. Now, this measures the extent to which an individual worries about a partner's availability, their fear of abandonment, right? And their hypervigilance regarding the relationship status. I mean, these people are like locked in. High anxiety is characterized by a significant underlying fear of abandonment, often leading to a lot of validation seeking behaviors. Is that you? You also have attachment avoidance, the distance dial, if you will, right? This measures the extent to which an individual kind of prefers self reliance, emotional distance, attempts to minimize vulnerability in intimate relationships, these types of things. High avoidance is driven by fear of rejection and an expectation of future hurt, leading to withdrawal, right? An emotional closed off situation where they're just seeking to protect themselves. Now, when we plot these two dials, anxiety, high low, right? And avoidance, high low, we arrive at the four distinct prototypes that are commonly discussed in dating psychology. Yeah, baby. Now, what are the four prototypes? The four categories established by Bartholomew and Horowitz, I believe in 1991, serve as a powerful archetype for understanding behavior. The differences in how people see themselves and others is really crucial to how we behave. You've got the secure attachment, right? Individuals scoring low on both anxiety and avoidance. These are the unicorns of dating, baby. They have a positive view of themselves. They feel worthy, right? They have a positive view of others, reliable, right? And this style is protective against psychological distress and trauma. I mean, these are the people getting into long term relationships that last. Now, you also have the anxious attachment, which is kind of like the preoccupied attachment, right? They have high anxiety, low avoidance. They crave relationships and intimacy, but they worry about the commitment of others. They view themselves negatively, unworthy of love, and they often view others positively, right? Reliable, but potentially leaving. Their core fear is abandonment. It's really sad. Then you got the avoidant attachment. This is kind of the dismissive type, right? Low anxiety, high avoidance. They love independence. They love self sufficiency. They view themselves positively, self sufficient, and others negatively, untrustworthy or demanding. Sounds like me. Their core goal is self reliance and control. And finally, you've got the disorganized, the fearful avoidant, if you will, the anxious avoidant. High anxiety, high avoidance. This style is characterized by intense conflict. I mean, they want closeness, but they are terrified of it. And this leads to tumultuous, alternating patterns of behavior, right? They hold negative views of both self and others. All right, let's do a deep dive into the hyperactivated, right, and the deactivated sabotage that the insecure attachment styles go through, right? Both anxious and avoidant, and these are both sort of like this is defined by specific maladaptive strategies they use to manage their fear, right, their anxiety, stuff like this. right? And these strategies are often deeply ingrained, learned, stable, right? They're stable coping mechanisms that ultimately reinforce the insecurity, which really creates like this self sabotaging trait. The anxious attachment style is rooted in early experiences of inconsistent caregiving, where needs were sometimes met and needs were sometimes neglected. And this led to an internal working model where the self is seen as unworthy of love and others are seen as unreliable, right? Maybe you had a distant father, but a mother who was there. The mechanism is hyperactivation. The core mechanism for the anxious individual is hyperactivation of the attachment system. This is the nervous system on constant red alert, frantically driving a search for proximity and reassurance. Right? It manifests as intense emotional reactions and a heightened focus on the partner. The anxious partner is unconsciously attempting to force a response. They are striving to close the emotional gap. And they perform a lot of sabotaging behaviors, right? They're driven by an unhealthy motive to force validation. The anxious partner engages in protest behaviors, right? That paradoxically push the partner away. And these behaviors are the visible proof of self sabotage, right? And I know some of you guys probably do these things. We've probably all done these things, especially if we have any anxiety in our attachment style. So one behavior, the validation vacuum. The anxious individual exhibits a constant need for reassurance from their partner. They may incessantly text or call when they're feeling anxious. They engage in high levels of suspicion, worrying about their partner's commitment level. And there's a conflict for closeness, right? They may initiate conflict or protest behaviors to achieve validation and proximity, effectively, testing the relationship's boundaries to see if the partner's going to stay, right? And then they go into emotional overdrive. They experience jealousy in intense and dysfunctional ways, like allowing it to ignite negative emotions, right? Like fear and shame and anger. And this then leads to surveillance or mate guarding behavior, right? I mean, they're over analyzing texts and conversations, right? They're putting your share with me to their phone. I mean, this stuff is stockish. And these actions are driven by a deep fear for closeness, but they frequently push partners away, creating a self fulfilling prophecy of rejection and abandonment. They're basically doing sucky behaviors, and then the outcome is sucky. The avoidant wall. This is kind of the opposite, right? Deactivation. So, avoidant attachment results from caregiving that was emotionally unavailable or dismissive, right? It creates that internal working model centered on self-sufficiency. I mean, these people, they learn to do everything themselves, right? They fear asking for help because they just think it's going to be pulled right out from under them once they get it, right? Where an avoidant individual views themselves positively, they do not view other people positively. They view other people as potentially suffocating, untrustworthy, possible liars, right? And so their mechanism that they use a lot is deactivation. And we've got some deactivators out here. I mean, unfortunately for me, I actually have the avoidant attachment style, and it's taken years to work on this. But the avoidant individual utilizes deactivation strategies all the time, right? They repress, they shut down, right? They minimize vulnerability, they maintain autonomy. Intimacy for them can sometimes feel like a threat, right, to their perceived, sense of self-sufficiency, right? Or at least they use that as an excuse. I know I did. And so what do? They emotionally repress, right? They repress by suppressing their emotional needs. They intellectualize things. They approach feelings in a very detached, analytical manner. They prefer not to show how they feel deep down. I mean, I do that, but I'm also a Gemini. They have sabotage behaviors like the distance game, right? Or you have the anxious person suffocating you, The distance game is all about like backing out, right? They're always trying to create distance. They're trying to prevent that deep binding commitment, my guys. Don't be that guy. Work on this. They have a reluctance to commit, right? They often express or think things like, I'm just not ready to commit. Even, after years in a relationship, right? I knew this woman. She'd been dating this guy for like 5 years. The guy was a tool, right? But that's another story. But she just stuck with this guy thinking maybe he'll propose to me next week. Then there's the nitpicking strategy. As intimacy increases, the avoidant partner might hyper focus on minor imperfections of their partner, right? Their dressing style, their habits, their way of speaking. And this is all to create that emotional distance, right? It serves as an excuse for them to pull back. Intermittent reinforcement, they can use that hot cold, right? They oscillate between feeling connected and then pulling away for self-protection, right? And when the connection feels too vulnerable, they're backing out. And this really leads to that hot cold dynamic that I've talked about so many times, right? And it really doesn't do anything for the relationship but create instability. These strategies are all examples of deactivating the attachment system to avoid discussion and to overlook problems, ultimately contributing to relationship cooling and disillusion. I mean, they may keep secrets or be intentionally vague just to maintain a sense of distance from you. And if you're dating one of these people, or if you're potentially dating one of these people, you need to keep these things in mind because they can be very difficult to deal with, especially if you're anxious. You've got the doomsday dance, right? The push pull dynamic. The most painful outcome of the insecure attachment is the push pull, often experienced when an anxious partner pairs with an avoidant partner. I mean, that's a match made in hell, my dudes. That is a recipe for disaster. The most painful outcome of the insecure attachment is the push pull dynamic, right? This creates an emotional roller coaster defined by cycles of intense closeness, followed by abrupt emotional distance. And this leads to chronic stress, right? Instability, these types of things. It can even lead to physiological stress and sickness. The push pull cycle is predictable, however. It's a toxic feedback loop that reinforces the core fears of both individuals. You've got connection, right? The couple feels close. The anxious partner's need for proximity is met. Withdrawal, the tripwire. The closeness overwhelms the avoidant partner who begins to deactivate and pull away. This withdrawal is a self protective strategy against perceived suffocation. The pursuit, the anxious partner experiences overwhelming fear of abandonment, hyperactivation, right? And responds by seeking even more closeness, sometimes through protest behavior or demands. This anxious pursuit is perceived by the avoidant partner as a severe threat to autonomy, triggering further deactivation strategies, withdrawal, silence. I mean, this confirms the anxious partner's IWM that their partner is unavailable, and it confirms the avoidant partner's IWM that intimacy is suffocating. The cycle resets upon temporary reconciliation. Rinse and repeat. And there's also the toxic impact of withdrawal, right? It's a common and highly corrosive deactivation strategy, right? Emotional withdrawal. This manifests as things like the silent treatment, right? Or something like stonewalling. It is critical to distinguish between a healthy pause for self regulation and a toxic withdrawal used as punishment. Guys, silence as a weapon, when silence is used as punishment, I mean, it is stonewalling. The deliberate freeze out or emotional disappearance. Research shows that social rejection, such as the silent treatment, this activates the same brain regions associated with physical pain. When withdrawal is used punitively, it worsens the emotional recovery process for both parties. I mean, chronic stonewalling is a strong predictor for a relationship that's going to die, divorce, dissatisfaction at the very least. And it erodes trust, right? This dynamic completely destroys any trust you may have built up over time, any kind of intimacy that you might have built up over time. It creates chronic insecurity and confusion, anxiety for both people. The constant oscillation between being embraced and being pushed away makes it nearly impossible to build a resilient, healthy connection. I'm not telling you to get out of a relationship if you're in one of these. You need Plant the Spark coaching. Look, you want secure strength. A secure attachment style is the apex of relational health. Secure individuals are characterized by their ability to comfortably depend on others while allowing others to depend on them. It fosters relationships marked by mutual trust and respect. Come on, guys. It's great when you have a buddy that you know you can rely on. You know, if you called him up at 2 a.m., he'd be there, right? And he knew the same thing. Well, in a relationship, I mean, it's more than that, man. Not only are you going to be there at 2 a.m., right? But you are going to show that you are going to be low in those avoidance triggers and low in those anxiety triggers, right? You're going to be there all the time. When facing relationship conflicts, secure individuals show a clear advantage. They report milder emotional reactions to jealousy stuff, right? Jealousy inducing tests or events. They utilize constructive coping strategies such as openly discussing their feelings and working to put the relationship back on course. They manage conflict by fighting the problem together, not each other. And they do not resort to surveillance behaviors or intentional emotional withdrawal. These are the unicorns of dating, baby. You find one in the woods, you find one in the wild, you better grab hold of that thing and ride it like a grizzly bear on steroids. Now, if you want to move toward this secure apex, the first step is to have an accurate diagnosis, right? You've got to identify exactly where you fall on this anxiety avoidance grid, right? The foundation of professional attachment diagnosis often uses scientifically backed questionnaires. Most notably, there's the Experience in Close Relationships revised scale, right? The ECR-RS. And these quizzes test, they assess, not test, they assess feelings and behaviors across a lot of different dimensions, like, ease of depending on a partner, so avoidance, versus worrying about abandonment, anxiety. Many really high quality online attachment style quizzes utilize this underlying structure. So if you want to find out what your attachment style is today, you can do that. Listen, find a free attachment style assessment, right, based on some kind of established research like the ECRRS, right? Take the inventory. Look, knowing your specific location on this anxiety avoidance continuum, it's a foundational step to hacking your own attachment code. It's a step in moving you into a secure attachment style so you can have those beautiful, high value relationships with high value women that you want, or if you're a lady, with the high value man that you're looking for. It's a common error to view your attachment style as a permanent sentence. Now, again, while insecure attachment can lead to relationship sabotage, the mechanism of sabotage itself reinforces the existing insecure style. And because it's a learned adaptation, it is subject to change throughout life. This means you're not stuck. You possess the power to hack your code and achieve earned secure attachment. ESA, baby. Earned security is the ultimate form of self mastery, my dudes. We're talking ethical masculinity. It is the intentional process of overriding old, faulty programming, experiencing both intrapsychic, internal, and interpersonal relationship changes. The following blueprint is going to leverage strategies used in actual clinical psychology journals to provide you the roadmap. That's what we do here at Plant the Spark. We only provide high quality content for you fire starters. Come on now. This is your massive research-backed plan for self-correction, my dudes. Guys, get on board right now. Do not miss this. So Achieving the earned secure attachment relies on a three-phase approach. Cognitive restructuring, you change your IWM, emotional regulation, stop the reactive cycles, and corrective experiences, modeling new behaviors. Phase one, the cognitive restructuring. What does it look like? How do you hack your IWM code, my dudes? Well, look, the core purpose of the cognitive restructuring, a technique actually drawn from cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, is to identify and replace the dysfunctional core beliefs that are the engine of your insecurity. The internal working model often operates like the tip of an iceberg. 90% of your relational conflicts are driven by these submerged, subconscious beliefs. Thanks, Freud. So number one, you got to do this thing called the belief reframing drill. Now, CBT interventions specifically target maladaptive beliefs, right, about the self and others. Something like I'm unworthy or people always lead, these types of things, right? And they aim to replace them with functional thought habits. So, for you anxious fire starters out there, your core negative self view has to be challenged. You have to actively reframe old thoughts, right? So, if you have an old belief like, I don't deserve love, right? New belief, I deserve love. Easy. Old belief, it's not okay to show emotions. New belief, it's okay to feel my emotions in a productive way. Now for the avoidant fire starter, the core negative view of others, this exaggerated self reliance, you got to challenge it, right? It's good to be self reliant to some degree, but it's okay to get help too. You've got to actively reframe thoughts like, I can't trust anyone. Two, I can trust some people. Old belief, I'm worthless if I need help. New belief, I am worthwhile and I am seeking help because I'm strong. Now, you see what that is? You are telling the truth now. That's what it is. And you're reframing what you once thought as a weakness as a strength. Phase two, emotional regulation and behavioral correction. This phase focuses on interrupting the destructive reactive behavioral cycles that you get into. I mean, I know I get into them, and I'm a dating and relationship coach, for Christ's sake. So, what are these cycles? You've got the hyperactivation, which is the pursuit, and the deactivation, which is the withdrawal, right? So, one, the anxious fix, weaponizing the pause. The anxious individual must learn to halt these hyperactivating strategies before they trigger self sabotage. Implement the pause when anxiety hits, fear, jealousy, doubt. Look, take a deliberate moment to just check in with yourself. Instead of impulsively texting or pursuing, clearly communicate to your partner. This matters, but I need space to calm down before we continue talking. This isn't stonewalling, right? It's emotional self regulation, which demonstrates maturity and control over the anxious impulse. This pause allows your body to settle, right? Preventing the amygdala from going crazy and running the show, right? And re engaging the prefrontal cortex, baby, your decision making center, your rational thought center, your executive functioning area, my dudes. Cultivate self support. Consciously shift the focus from expecting partners to validate your feelings to nurturing your own emotional resilience. What are we doing here, man? Practicing mindfulness, self compassion. This stuff's scientifically proven to reduce relationship anxiety and increase your overall feelings of security. Now, what about the avoidant fix? Intentional vulnerability, we'll call it. The avoidant individual must use behavioral exposure techniques. They've got to increase their tolerance to emotional closeness and interdependence, which directly counters that deactivation strategy they use, right? The vulnerability challenge. Security requires gradually building trust. So maybe practice sharing a genuine feeling or concern you would normally repress or intellectualize. I mean, this is actually a form of exposure therapy for emotional intimacy, right? It allows you to become more comfortable with panic related physiological symptoms and thoughts that accompany genuine closeness. Stop the sabotage loop. I mean, when intimacy increases, consciously resist the urge to nitpick, right? Stop finding those small imperfections in your partner. Quit idealizing past relationships that were so much better. He never did this. She never did that. Like, stop it. You're acting like you would if you were a child. During conflict, remember, argument bumpers, baby. Allow your partner a margin of error in their emotional expression, right? They're not perfect, and neither are you, especially at the start of difficult conversations, right? Instead of defending your independent position or launching a counterattack, right? You aim to reflect. You aim to reflect their emotions back to them, guide them, be the mirror that only reflects feelings, right? You're guiding that conversation toward the middle of the relational lane. You're not off the side of the road, and you're not slamming into oncoming traffic, my dudes. You are right in the middle, baby. And then phase three, right? Phase three is the good one. This is the one where you actually go out there and you make change. Corrective experiences, right? The cheat code, if you will. For deep-seated change, it is often necessary to experience relationships that contradict the negative predictions of the IWM, the models. A meta condition for achieving earned secure attachment is engaging with supportive relationships outside of the primary romantic partnership. Seek out secure friends, mentors, therapists, coaches. Having reliable, emotionally available figures allow the insecure individual to model healthy relational social behaviors. It increases your self esteem. You receive emotional support necessary to experience lasting change because that's what we're going for here, not quick fixes. This ain't Instagram. Professional overhaul, right? Get advanced help. For many adults with long standing relational wounds, professional help provides a structured, safe environment for correction. And it's anonymous. You could tell them anything. You've got emotionally focused therapy, EFT. Now, EFT explicitly frames relational distress in attachment terms. It's great for helping people access, process and restructure maladaptive, emotional driven patterns that maybe they've developed over their childhood. And then there's trauma processing with EMDR, right? For those whose insecurity sort of stems from encoded childhood trauma, like eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. EMDR can be really, really effective, right? Highly effective. This technique uses rhythmic stimulation to help the individual process distressing memories, right? Allowing them to gain a more objective perspective and relive the chronic anxiety associated with these early negative experiences in a safer place. The therapeutic alliance itself provides a critical corrective emotional experience. You're working with someone and helping clients rework their ingrained relational patterns in a secure, supportive setting. Fire starters, look. If you recognize yourself in this script, whether you saw the ghost of the anxiously pursuing partner or the shadow of the emotionally walled off avoider, right? That recognition is not a sentence. It's a wake-up call. You now possess the blueprint to hack your emotional operating system. The secure attachment is not some mystical superpower. It's not a unicorn. It's not something granted at birth, right? It's a capacity developed through intentional effort and emotional honesty. The research is clear. You can become securely attached. The goal is not about finding the perfect person to fix you. It's about becoming emotionally resilient, right? It's about you becoming the emotionally resilient man who can sustain a resilient, authentic connection. The ability to regulate your emotions and tolerate both closeness and distance. And this is the foundation of the high value, ethically masculine, fire starting man that we have here at Plant the Spark. Stop playing the doomsday dance against yourself, my guys. Stop settling for relationship turbulence just because it feels familiar. And start the work of self mastery today because that's all that truly matters. Not the girl, not the guy, but the inner work that makes you an ethically masculine man or woman. Look, drop the fire emoji in the comments if you are done settling for insecure patterns and ready to fire up your secure, authentic self. Like, subscribe, and share this knowledge with that girl who you know is going to put you in hot and cold tonight. I mean, this is the truth that sets your love life free, baby. We'll see you next time on Plant the Spark. I'm Mike, your personal dating and relationship coach. Go out there, get that girl, get that guy, but first, work on yourself.